This guy learned how to stop time and uses it to undress girls, but you'll never guess what he does with them. Next, it's the movie Cashback. Let's go the main character. Ben Willis is an aspiring artist. He is going through a very hard breakup with his girlfriend Susie. She made a real scene and even threw a cup and a table lamp at him as a goodbye. Ben is having breakfast with his best friend Sharon and complains about Susie. Turns out the girl isn't wasting her time and is already dating another guy. Sharon advises his friend to start a relationship with some model to make Susie jealous and eventually willing to come back to him. The iron is that he himself gets constantly rejected by girls foreign to distract himself. Ben comes to an art class in one of the classes. Instead of drawing a fat man, Ben depicts a beautiful girl sitting across from him. The instructor doesn't like Ben's artwork and reprimands him. The guy is forced to continue drawing the man without clothes at night suffering from insomnia. Ben calls Susie and apologizes to her, but the past is gone. Moreover, the girl already has a new boyfriend. Ben reviews the pictures of him and Susie together and then wants to burn them, but instead he puts them in a drawer to pass time. Somehow the guy watches movies, reads books, and even travels to other cities. But as night falls, he continues to be plagued by insomnia and thoughts of Susie having another sleepless night. Ben goes to a convenience store and notices an announcement about a vacancy for a night shift worker. He immediately applies for the job during an interview with the boss. Bella notices he has a special ability he can slow down time, but so far the guy hasn't learned how to control it. He thinks it's a hallucination from his constant insomnia at work. Ben acts somewhat strange, for example, seeing a bundle of scattered piece. Ben just stands there and looks at them instead of cleaning it up. The supervisor reprimands Ben. He begins to clean up, but suddenly notices a pretty girl and looks at her beautiful figure with rapt attention. He gets a slap and a second warning from his boss, and he finally cleans up those damned piece. Every employee of the supermarket has their own way to pass the time. The cashier, Sharon, does not look at the clock and constantly tries to cover it with something because the more you check the time, the slower it goes. Barry rides his scooter at work, imagining himself to be one hell of a stuntman. He also makes fun of the customers with his friend Matt. One of their favorite pranks is planting a toy for an adult in someone's car at the checkout. Some shoppers decide to keep an interesting toy for themselves. After all, these guys also love to race on scooters, but sometimes it ends up badly. The only person who is okay with everything is their boss. He can constantly tell everyone around him how cool and rich he is because of his breakup with Susie. Ben hasn't slept well in 2 weeks and feels like a zombie. But now he finally begins to understand how to stop time and takes full advantage of his superpower. Ben slows down time in the supermarket so much that all the other people inside literally freeze. He sees an attractive girl in front of him and looks at her with delight. He takes the clothes of the attractive girls who have come to the shop and no, it's not what you think. He draws them once he finishes the portraits. He carefully dresses the girls and brings back the usual passage of time. But where does this love for the female body come from? It turns out that when he was a child, they gave accommodation to a student from Sweden who could walk around the house completely naked. Looking at her, little Ben began to admire the female beauty. Not only draws girls, but also takes revenge on his narcissistic boss. Frozen in time, he transports him to a spot where Matt and Barry are throwing bottles of sour milk at each other. The artist puts the boss right in front of the flying bottle and brings back the usual passage of time. The next morning, Ben is visited by his friend Sharon, who brings up the subject of breaking up with Susie again. Ben slows down time and reminisces about their childhood. They have been friends since they were 5 and could play video games for hours one day. When Sean's mom went to the store, the boy showed band magazines for adults. Suddenly, Sean's mom came back. The boys managed to hide the magazines, but there was another problem. Suspicious mounds below the waist from then on. Sean's mother was convinced that her son and Ben were more than just friends. When Ben returns the usual course of time, the friend advises him to find a girl for a one-night stand. Sean costs all such girls Natalie because when they were teenagers, they had a neighbor girl named Natalie who would lift up her skirt to show something interesting for money the next day at work. Barry and Matt Polk funded Ben and pulled down his pants, and then notice a new employee who seems to have kung fu skills. Matt asks the guy to demonstrate trade. His talents on him, laughter so much for the kung fu cluster in the locker room. Sharon asks Ben for a bite of his sandwich. Better notices the girl has a piece of cucumber left on her face. He removes it, and looking at Sharon's face, he realizes that he has fallen in love with her later. Ben learns that Matt has asked her out on a date. Our hero recalls his high school crush, a girl named Tanya Green one day, She came to school with a cast on her arm which aroused the interest of her classmates every day. They wrote words of encouragement on her cast. But the thing is, after the cast was removed, for some reason the girl got long, thick hair on her arm while everyone laughed at Tanya. Ben supported a girl and asked her to go out with him. Tanya agreed. The next day they went on a date behind a school. Ben could have had his first kiss that day, but he got confused and just went home. They were supposed to meet the next day, but Tanya never showed up again later. It turned out that her parents took her to America at work. Then here's Matt telling him about a date with Sharon, and here they see a supervisor who informs the employees that they will participate in a friendless soccer game. The game begins. Professional soccer players are playing against the team from the supermarket. The score is 26-0, and Ben's team doesn't stand a chance the moment the ball flies right into the boss's face. The guy slows down, time to rest and drink some soda. After taking a few sips, he hears a strange creaking sound. Looks like there's someone here who is not susceptible to his ability to slow down time. Ben returns to the field as if nothing had happened and finishes the last second of the match after a powerful hit. The boss asks Matt to take him to the hospital, and Matt asks Ben to walk Sharon home. On the way they stop for coffee. Ben learns that there is no serious relationship between Sharon and Matt. Rejoicing, the guy talks about his talent as an artist and walks the girl home the next day. Share parents he's been and invites him to go with her to the boss's birthday party. The boy gathers all the men and gives Ben £200 to find a dancer for his party. A hero asks Sean for advice. His friend agrees to help, but on the condition that he will be invited to the party as well. The guys go in search to find a random girl in a bar. Ben imagines Sharon in the place of the dancer, and he enjoys these fantasies very much. The next day, our hero continues slowing down time to draw Sharon. What is surprising is that he does not take her clothes off as he did with the other girls. Ben is primarily interested in her face. He draws dozens of portraits of her that afternoon after the shift. Sharon comes up to him in the locker room and kisses him tenderly upon arriving home. Ben finally falls sweetly asleep. Sharon has broken the curse of his insomnia in the morning. Ben wakes up to a phone call and learns great news. One gallery is seriously interested in his paintings, and it invites him to make a presentation on Monday. Alas, it turns out to be another Barry's and Mad Sprang.